A reading from the 139th Psalm. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. One night after a ball game at NYSEG Stadium in Binghamton, I walked past that downtown mansion, the Phelps Mansion. The scene was lit by a full moon. I happened to have a camera, so I took a quick shot in the dark. Did you see someone move in that drapery on the third floor? This dark mansion? Would you be scared? I wasn't afraid of any homebound third-story specter, or for the sake of alliteration, any first-floor phantoms for that matter. But dark streets, downtown, the memory of having been robbed at gunpoint in a dark Richmond, Virginia parking lot 25 years ago, that memory is still fresh with me, and I'm still jumpy on empty city streets at night. I wouldn't say I'm afraid of the dark per se. I still remember one night when I was in college, I took a study break. I took a lot of study breaks. And I decided to leave the apartment, walk a block, and then leading out of New Wilmington, there was a road that very quickly put you in the rural western Pennsylvania countryside. The road was quiet, the skies above were clear, the stars shone overhead in the biggest celestial expanse I'd ever seen. It was magnificent. And I prayed in that dark sanctuary. Darkness can be holy. Pat, if she were not fighting the flu, would be opening Barbara Brown Taylor's book, Learning to Walk in the Dark, to us tonight. It's the theme for these Wednesday night Lenten meditations. In Taylor's first pages, she writes that despite her childhood fear of the dark and the ways that darkness is used metaphorically for every negative force and for many conditions in our lives, darkness, nonetheless, or all the more, has a positive meaning for her. And she writes, I have learned things in the dark that I never could have learned in the light, things that have saved my life over and over again. So that there's really only one logical conclusion. I need darkness as much as I need light. Darkness can be holy. Remember the lyric from that Louis Armstrong song, What a Wonderful World? I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The dark sacred night. Another song comes to mind, one not nearly as well known, but apt. Darkness, darkness, be my pillow. Take my head and let me sleep in the coolness of your shadow, in the silence of your dream. Jesse Cullen Young wrote that for the Youngbloods. And Joan reminded me, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. In John's gospel, in the very opening verses, there is that proclamation that the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has never put it out. Chapter 3 of John opens with the well-respected Pharisee Nicodemus going to visit Jesus at night. That is, under the cover or the cloak of darkness. The dark provided Nicodemus with some safety, you see. Frederick Buechner has Nicodemus waiting until all his neighbors are asleep before he kind of sneaks through the darkness to meet with Jesus. This wise man didn't want folks to know that there was yet more wisdom to be had in this interview with the traveling rabbi, Jesus. So he went after dark. And in that conversation, the darkness did not overcome the light, but perhaps enabled it. Darkness can be holy. While darkness may well find its reputation sullied by things that go bump in the night, there is something very good associated with deep shadows, and that is the quiet. It's the quiet. Sitting on the porch on a dark night, you may hear no more than some distant traffic or a dog barking down the street. Maybe summer's crickets and peepers or a freight train miles away. But mostly, isn't it quiet there in the dark? And isn't that a good thing in the noisy world? There in the dark is space for reflection and contemplation and meditation and bigger words than those. There's mystery in the dark. And often it is good. I like the idea of not knowing. Entertaining, there on the porch, questions and doubts and uncertainty, and not being rattled by the sacred night or the sounds of silence. It's okay to be in the dark now and then. That familiar proverb comes to mind that it's better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. Sure. The candle shines gently as hope. But the darkness that surrounds the light is what makes the light so important. And I can pray more deeply if there's just one candle and not the whole place bathed in fluorescent tubes and LED bulbs. And if darkness were such an enemy, why do we often close our eyes when we pray? Is it not to shut out distraction and help us focus on our conversation with the light? I'm looking forward to reading the rest of Barbara Brown Taylor's book and taking a walk in the dark, sacred night. Pat had suggested when she knew that she would not be well enough to be here that we look at the questions at the back of the book about this chapter that opens this volume of Barbara Brown Taylor's. One question is, when you read the word darkness, what images or feelings or thoughts come to mind? Are they positive or are they negative? How do you think your upbringing affects your response to the idea of darkness? She says, again, I've learned things in the dark I could never have learned in the light. I need darkness as much as I need light. What's your response to the idea that people need darkness as much as light to learn what they need to know about life? And can you describe a time when you learned something in the darkness that you could not have learned in the light? You think back over your childhood, and what is your personal history of darkness? Were you taught to fear the darkness and protect yourself from it? Or were you taught to walk in it to encounter fear and learn from it? How did this affect how you face darkness today? Hello, darkness, my old friend.